Do you know, just out of curiosity, how much your family has lost in income and purchasing power since Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have been in office? The average, get this, the average American family has lost over $29,000 in real dollars due to inflation and dramatically increased prices on just about everything we buy. Now remember, that's the average. So many Americans have lost more. Some have lost less, but everyone is worse off. Now, would you like 4 more years of that, huh? I mean, can you really afford it? If you're having a hard time making up your mind as to how you're going to vote, I want to ask you a few questions and try to be as honest as possible in answering them. Have you had to cut back on taking trips or going places because of the cost of gas, eating out, and hotels and airfare? It's just too much. Are there items in the store that you used to purchase that you don't buy at all, or maybe you don't buy as much of, such as eggs, meat, fresh vegetables, or fruits? Have you laid aside plans to buy a new home or even upgrade the one you have? Has the spike in interest rates caused you to hold off for another year or more on the purchase of a new vehicle? Do you find yourself being much more intentional about turning off the lights, taking shorter showers, or turning your thermostats to a less comfortable temperature just due to the cost of heating and cooling? Have you put off some medical or dental procedures because you just couldn't afford them? Have you found that you had to cut back on your charitable giving to your church or organizations that you really want to help, but you just don't have the spare funds? But beyond the economic issues that have a direct and dramatic impact on your family's lifestyle and comfort, here are some other questions that you need to honestly ask yourself. Does it bother you that you are required to show your photo ID to get into an office building or cash a check or get on an airplane, but illegal immigrants walk right across the border and immediately get free housing, medical care, food, education, and they never show one single document? Yeah, I think our audience is pretty clear on that one, don't you think? Are you concerned that about 20 million people have stepped right into our country without so much as a background check or a health screening? But you, get this now, you are required to bring your child's birth certificate and a record of vaccinations just to enroll your child in school. Does it bother you that recreational facilities that were once used for youth sports are now being used to house large numbers of people who are here illegally? Does it bother you that to drive a vehicle, you not only have to pass a driver education test and have a valid driver's license, but you also have to carry proof that you've paid your taxes and have proof of having registered your car, bought the license plate, and insured your vehicle? Are you a little ticked off that every day you read news reports of people here illegally who drive unlicensed and uninsured cars, have no clue about traffic laws, and have never obtained a valid driver's license and end up killing people in what would have been a preventable accident? Are you outraged when you learn that someone who has committed multiple violent crimes has been released on the street only to rape a young girl or brutally murder a college student who's just out for a morning jog? So if these things really bother you, but you end up voting for the people and the party who support the things that upset you, will you do me a favor? Write me an email and explain why on earth you're going to do that. Because I, for the life of me, cannot understand it. Now, you're going to hear me say often before the election that 40 million self-professing evangelical Christians do not even vote in a presidential election. Think about that, 40 million. If even half that number would register and vote, every election in every state for every office would be impacted. If you don't vote for a government that you want, you're going to be stuck with a government that you deserve, but it's one that probably you'll never comfortably live with. Let me put it this way. I can explain it to you, but I can't understand it for you. You got to do that. But for Pete's sakes, get registered Learn the policies of the candidates for every office from school board to president. Pray about your vote. And above all, go and vote, because we owe it to our children and our grandchildren to give them a country that they can afford to safely and securely live in. Matt Walsh was with us when he produced a powerful documentary called What is a Woman? Well, he has topped his previous work with a blockbuster new film in which he went deep undercover for this latest movie role. And he's transformed himself into a certified diversity, equity, and inclusion expert for this hilarious spoof. It is his anti-racist journey. Here's a little peek at Matt Walsh in his new film called Am I Racist? Take a look.
Growing up in the 90s, I never thought much about race. Sure, you noticed, but never really seemed to matter that much, at least not to me.
Being a white, straight, cisgender man, it's the top of the pile.
I'm on the top of the pile. That's me. Am I racist?
I would really appreciate it if you left.
I'm trying to learn. I'm on this journey.
Can you please leave?
If I'm going to sort this out, I need to go deeper undercover. If I want to be an ally, I need to look like one.
What is racism?
Martin Luther King said not to judge people by the...
Martin Luther King said a lot of stuff.
Is America inherently racist?
What the is that?
The word inherent is challenging there. America is racist to its bones. All of the...
So inherently.
Yeah.
Say you racist, but they call everybody racist.
The film is sweeping the nation and owning the libs all the while. Would you please welcome the film's creator and the star of the Daily Wire, Matt Walsh. Matt, your creativity always amazes me. Where in the world did you get the idea to do this film about racism?
Well, we, our last film was What is a Woman, as you mentioned, and that was exploring gender ideology and basically how the world lost its mind when it comes to gender. And so then we thought, well, we want to make another movie, and what other area has the world seemed to lose its mind in? And that points immediately to race. But we thought, well, why is race a problem? Why, especially the last 4 years since the BLM riots in 2020, where is this coming from? Where is it arising from? Who's causing this problem? And well, it's these race hustlers, these grifters, the Robin DiAngelos of the world. And so we wanted to make this movie to expose those people, but we thought rather than just going and asking them questions, I'll go on a personal journey of exploration myself, which is totally sincere, obviously. I was really looking to, decenter my whiteness, and look, in my job, I'm called racist all the time. Yeah. And for so many years, it just kind of rolled off my back. But then one day I just said, you know what, what if they're right? And so I need to go on a journey and find out. And that's kind of where the movie begins.
You know what I loved about it, when I saw you in the film, I didn't recognize you at first. I mean, I've known you for several years, and, the glasses were different. You had the man bun thing going on.
I'm glad to hear you say that, because a lot of people have been really rude about the wig.
Really?
Governor.
No, they shouldn't be. I'm thinking about getting one and wearing it every week.
It's a beautiful wig.
Yeah.
It's a nice wig.
Could I buy it from you? Because I think it would look good on me coming out.
It'll cost you.
Oh, okay.
If you want the authentic film wig.
If I wear that wig, it will cost me. My wife will leave me. I'll tell you what's going to happen. But I mean, honestly, I didn't recognize you at first. And obviously, that was an important thing because a lot of people now know who you are because of the previous film. Did anyone ever say, are you Matt Walsh? Did you have that?
Not as often as you would think.
Yeah.
It did happen early in the film. I go to a support group where it's white people who are struggling with the fact that they're white. And so they sit around in a circle. It's like AA style, sitting in a circle.
What do they say? They start out and say, my name is Mike, and I'm white. Hey, Mike. Is that what happens? I mean...
Basically, yes. That's basically
That's crazy.
And so that's the beginning of the journey, and I go to that support group, not in any kind of costume, just to see if we can get away with it. And I got about, an hour into it, But at a certain point, as you see in the movie, I'm in this support group and I start getting emotional because, again, it's a sincere journey on my part. And they have a cry room that they've set up. If you cry...
You're not serious.
I'm dead serious. They have an actual
cry room.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I get emotional. I leave to the cry room, which was a strategic mistake, because while I'm in the cry room, that gave them time to Google me, and they started looking at my Wikipedia page. And my Wikipedia page is not very flattering to me.
Yeah.
They never are. When I came back, they knew what was up, and they kicked me out. And they called the cops, too, because they said that I made them feel unsafe. Just
really?
My presence in the room.
And these were other white people that were there.
These are the white people. It was led by a black woman who's the helps people deal with their whiteness. And then from that point on, I'm in the man bun and the whole getup. And from that point on, I wasn't recognized ever again. So the man bun is all it takes.
And it was... That's good to know, because there are places I need to go where I won't be recognized. And I think that's maybe the ticket right there. You got a lot of pushback from media people saying that you were taking advantage of people by going undercover. But I don't remember anybody getting upset with Sacha Baron Cohen when he did the Borat movies, which were hilarious.
Right. Yeah.
And he spoofed everybody. He did exactly what you did in several different films. Nobody got upset about that, but they got upset at you.
Yeah, not only do they not get upset at him, but we're taking a similar approach. The only difference is that Sacha Baron Cohen in Borat, which is a very funny movie.
Yeah.
But who is he embarrassing in that film? If you've seen it, he's embarrassing just average Americans in the heartland.
Yeah.
Who are trying to be nice to him, and he embarrasses them. And the idea behind the movie is he's exposing that average white Americans are all racist or whatever. In this movie, we were very intentional that we did not want to use this kind of disguise to embarrass normal people. We're looking to embarrass the elites. We want to embarrass people with PhDs next to their name, people that are college professors, and the so-called experts, the people that make millions of dollars selling books on this topic. We want to embarrass them, although I'm not embarrassing them. I'm only giving them an opportunity to embarrass themselves for our amusement.
And that's what I think is so incredible, because it wasn't that you were picking at them. You let them talk, and what they said is hilarious to everybody whose brain still functions. We've got a lot more to talk about with Matt Walsh. He's going to stay right here for more conversation, and you should too, because we have a great show lined up. And Keith Bilbrey, he is just itching to tell you all about it. So Keith, take it away.
Well, yes, I am. Still to come, survival expert Donny Dust, and later, music legend Gary Huckett performs one of his biggest hits. That's all ahead on Huckabee. MikeHuckabee.com and sign up for his free newsletter and follow @GovMikeHuckabee on X.
We are back with Matt Walsh, The Daily Wire, and he's creator and star of the spectacular new film called Am I Racist? Matt, what was the craziest thing that you encountered when you're out there talking to these very, very sophisticated academics?
Well, there's a lot. I guess I don't want to give spoilers away, but some of this stuff has been reported in the media, so I guess, well, spoiler alert, but I'll just go ahead and say it. Probably the thing that sticks out to most people who've seen the film is we do eventually talk to Robin DiAngelo, who is the author of White Fragility, and which is kind of the Bible of anti-racism. She's the most prominent person in this field. And we were able to, towards the end of my journey, I was able to talk to her. And we had in mind going into that interview, into that scene, that I wanted to be able to use her ideas kind of against her, kind of one-up her, using her own logic. And the goal was, by the end of the scene, I wanted to see if I could get her to pay cash reparations to my black producer on the spot. And my black friend, Ben, who's a producer on the film, we called him in, we sat him down, and I gave her an opportunity to pay cash reparations. She was a little bit hesitant at first, but I just used some of her own arguments to her, and then eventually she gets up and she goes to her purse, she pulls out cash and gives it to the producer, pays reparations on the spot. And that was probably not even the craziest thing that happened in the movie.
Did you ever, by the way, tell her there who you were and what you were doing?
No.
She had to see the movie to find out, right?
Yeah. Well, she asked my name. I told her my name's Matt, and she didn't ask for a last name, which is good.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because she put out a statement before the movie came out. A day before the movie came out, she finally put out a statement condemning me and calling me all kinds of names.
Probably calling you a racist, I'm sure.
Probably that. Yeah, there was that. There were other things. But she said in her statement, she claimed that when she sat down for the interview, she noticed that the interviewer was wearing an ill-fitting wig, which, number one, the wig is not ill-fitting. I think it fits pretty well. You can see it there. And
I think it was pretty
number
doggone
two,
good.
If you could tell that I was wearing a wig, why did you sit for the interview for 2 hours?
Yeah.
I don't know.
You know, we're laughing about this whole issue of racism. I'm not making fun of the fact that racism is, for some people, real, and there has been racism in our culture and country, and it's hideous and evil, and nobody wants to defend that. And I want to make clear, we're making fun of the people who have made a living calling everybody a racist who really isn't a racist.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's 100%. And we don't just talk to the crazy people in the movie. We also go and talk to normal Americans. We go to a biker bar in the South where, it's a bunch of white bikers, working class people. We go down to the black community in New Orleans. We talk to them about this. And what we find is that those two groups say almost exactly the same thing on this topic, which is that they're not focused on race. They don't, you can be black or white, doesn't matter to them. They can be friends with anybody. They're not thinking about racism. They're not thinking about systemic racism. They're just kind of living their lives. So the stuff that you hear from Robin DiAngelo, or these other DEI grifters, when you repeat it to these people who are outside of that bubble, they look at you like you're speaking a different language because to them it doesn't reflect their reality as normal Americans living their lives. And that really is the message and the point of the film that we hope to bring out.
Which I think is so powerful, is that if you look for racism, you'll find a way to create it, but you may have to create it. If you just ask ordinary people living their lives, going to work, feeding their families, going to play ball with their kids, they're not thinking about this stuff all the time because they honestly are not racist. It's not what makes them tick. So how do we as a society get to the place where we can sort of put the stiff arm on some of this nonsense and say, let's just be human beings and be Americans and love each other and be good neighbors?
And it's funny, what you just said is exactly what we hear from, we talked to a black car mechanic in New Orleans about all of this, and he gives that exact message. He says, well, the answer here is just to love each other. That's the way he looks at it. And for me, the answer is, it's similar to what Morgan Freeman said in a 60 Minutes interview about 20 years ago. And he was asked, what do we do about racism in America? And he said, stop talking about it. And it sounds kind of simple. And this is coming from a man who would have actually experienced real racism given his age. But his message is just don't obsess over it and let's talk about other things, let people live their lives. Don't try to convince people that they're racist when they're not, because at the end of the day, the only person who can tell me whether you are racist or whether anyone else is racist is you yourself. You know what's inside your own heart. And if you're saying that I don't have those thoughts and feelings in my heart, then I believe you, and let's move on.
Well, I would tell you, you're 2 for 2 on some phenomenal films that expose some of the insanity of our current culture. What is a Woman was so brilliant, and the last phrase in it, uttered by your wife, was the coup de grace of that film. This one, once again, you have nailed it and given us all a good reason to sit back and honestly say, racism isn't the problem, stupidity is the problem. Thanks for exposing it, Matt.
Thank you.
God bless you. Keep up the great work you're doing.
Thank you.
You can follow Matt Walsh on all of his social platforms. You can find out where you can go to watch Am I Racist this weekend by going to huckabee.tv, clicking on his guest page, and the theaters where it's playing will be there. And then in a few weeks or months, you'll be able to get it on the Daily Wire by streaming it. Keith, I understand that there are some survival tips that are coming up in the show. Why don't you tell us what's up?
Well, that's exactly right. Former Marine and survival expert Donny Dust is ready to share some skills that every American needs to know. Keep it right here on Huckabee.
Well, no one knows, and I mean no one knows, when devastation will strike. And it can often leave us in deep confusion and despair. Just ask those people along the Gulf Coast who this week have been hit hard by a hurricane. But God is using the volunteers at Samaritan's Purse to be the hands and feet of Jesus by showing up on the ground during the tragic times to offer aid and relief to those affected. When you give to Samaritan's Purse, you're not only helping to meet physical and immediate needs of many people, but you're also speaking the love of Christ into their hearts. I hope you'll reach out to our friends at Samaritan's Purse today by calling them or visiting their website. You can do that by going to the QR code on your screen and go straight to the Samaritan's Purse site. Please discover how you can contribute to their global efforts and make a meaningful impact. Thank you, and God bless you for helping Samaritan's Purse. Well, my next guest is someone who I think this audience will find truly wild, but in a good way. I want you to welcome U.S. Marine Corps veteran, primitive survival expert, and author of this book. It's called Wild Wisdom. Please welcome Donny Dust. I have so been looking forward to having you here, Donny, because I'm intrigued by your life.
Thank you.
First of all, you got in the Marine Corps. So you go to the place where there's so much structure and order and orders and telling you what to do. And now you're living out there in the middle of nowhere in the wild. I mean, there couldn't be a bigger contrast, I don't think, right?
Absolutely. I mean, the Marine Corps kind of teaches you those foundations of, mission accomplishment and staying disciplined. And when you kind of transition in that natural world, you kind of get to live a little bit more freely. You kind of go with the flow of what the environment is dictating. Whether it's raining, you got free drinks. If it's snowing, you got to build a fire. So you just kind of adapt and overcome.
Well, I recognized immediately the Marine Corps haircut, and that was the first thing that I noticed. But, you did learn some survival skills in the Marines, and I guess that was part of what led you into becoming the wild man.
Absolutely, yeah. The Marine Corps gave me that foundation, and they always kind of painted this picture. We're going to create the worst day possible. And when you take that kind of worst day and translate it or transplant it into the future, every day after that, it's pretty simple. So they teach you to adapt and overcome and deal with that adversity, really building your resiliency.
Now, you take people out in the middle of nowhere and teach them how to survive. What are some basic things that city boys need to learn when they get out there in the middle of nowhere with no hotel room, no cot, no tent, just caveman kind of life?
I can tell you that first and foremost, this is not a wig, and I do appreciate the hotel room. It's pretty great. But typically, you got to focus on shelter right up front because exposure to the elements, whether it's rain, heat, snow, you pick it, is going to wind up taking your life quicker than anything. So you focus on those priorities based on that environment, and you'll be able to overcome. But I do have to check a lot of people's packs for extra, beef jerky and cell phones and baby wipes.
They learn to have to eat whatever they find out there in the wilderness, right?
Absolutely.
So they don't bring sandwiches and a jar of peanut butter.
Nothing.
We're talking about leaves and berries and...
Yeah, well, certain leaves, but a lot of berries. We go with the fish first mentality because it's easy to catch fish, whether you can just scoop it right out of the water, using your hand, or you build a spear. But there's always food. There's a giant buffet out in the bush, as I like to say, and you just have to know how to properly resource it. And once you have those, those food, favorites, they're out there for the taking.
You brought looks like some knives.
I did.
Or,
yes.
I would call them arrowheads, but I don't know what.
So one of the things I focus on in the primitive skills world, and here's a couple.
Okay.
Is actually making all of our tools. So we don't bring anything modern out there. It's
really?
all, loincloths and animal skins and then stone
Keith
tools.
so wants to go out and do the loincloth thing. I know he does.
But that's the focus. The focus is our creativity is our number one survival skill.
So you take a rock and you turn it into what could be either a weapon or a tool.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Wow.
Spear points, arrow points, a knife like this, everything and anything can be a tool. And I use simple bits of antler tines and various pressure flakers to essentially make that tool. I mean, this is from an antler. So you could find this out in the bush and create all of the tools with the necessary rock. Like this right here, this is a little knife. That's for you.
Wow.
But more importantly, that knife has been used to butcher a bison.
No kidding, this little knife.
That little knife right there. So with, the help of 4 or 5 other students, 1,100-pound animal, that single blade right there will be able to take that whole bison.
Hey, we're talking some serious eating if you have a big old 1,200-pound bison.
Absolutely.
That's some basic barbecue right there.
Good meat right there. The ribs.
Suddenly you feel like this is all right. It's a fascinating thing because you're really going back to the primitive kind of life that people lived long before. And there's been a lot more people who have survived that kind of lifestyle than have driven cars and pulled up to a hotel and gotten a restaurant meal and all those sort of things. So it's kind of nice to know this is how we got here because people before us had it a lot tougher than we'll ever imagine. Absolutely. I know you deal with that in your book. People also can sign up to go to one of your courses and experience it.
Absolutely. We'll head out in the bush in the high mountains of the Rockies. We'll head out into the deserts and eat tarantulas. I mean, it's a great time. And it's
Boy, that sounds like fun, doesn't it? Eating a tarantula. You had me at the bison, you lost me at the tarantula, I got to tell you. Hey, to follow Donny and get a lot more of his survival tips on social media or get his new book, find his guest page on huckabee.tv. Speaking of wild, we have our own wild man right here, Keith Bilbrey, and he's going to tell us what wild things are coming up next. Keith?
Well, I'll tell you, I am a wild and crazy guy. Up next, actor Eric Close and trailblazer Joe Kennedy show a preview of their new movie, Average Joe. You do not want to miss it. That's coming up next on Huckabee. And be a part of our studio audience. Just go to huckabee.tv and click on free tickets.
Welcome back, everyone. Well, long-time viewers are going to remember Coach Joe Kennedy, whose practice of praying after high school football games sparked an epic legal battle that led to a historic Supreme Court victory for religious freedom. Well, now his story is being told in a new movie called Average Joe. It opens October the 11th. Here's a little preview.
We ready? I've been fighting my whole life.
Joseph Anthony Kennedy.
I was a hellion of a kid who nobody wanted.
1, 2, 3, 4, United States Supreme Court.
So, you told me that saying a prayer on the 50-yard line was the thing that was going to get me in the biggest fight of my life. You cannot tell me that God doesn't have a sense of humor.
Denise, could I see you in my office for a minute, please?
I want you to pray in the locker room.
Do you not see how absurd this is?
Kennedy, do your job and get them in the locker room.
I get it. It's not fair. Nobody cared for 7 years. Now they do.
I bet you can guess where this is going. I made a promise to God. I can't let him down.
I can't wait to see it. Would you please welcome the star of Without a Trace, Suits, Nashville, American Sniper, and now star of the new movie, Average Joe. That's Eric Close. And welcome back to the show, a true American hero, Coach Joe Kennedy. It's so exciting to have both of you here, the subject of the film and the star of the film who's playing the subject of the film. Eric, you've done so many phenomenal projects. You're an acclaimed actor. There's nothing average about you or your career. You're playing a guy whose title in the movie is Average Joe.
Yeah, this guy's not average. Yeah.
I was going to say, there's nothing average about him either, is there?
Not a chance, no.
Were you intrigued first, offered the script and read it and thought, yeah, I can do this, I want to do it?
Well, actually, I read his book, and I was so inspired by his story and just what he did and willing to take on this challenge and at all costs. And I was so impressed by that and how he and his wife just loved each other through it.
Joe, I mean, you and I have had conversations before. I've always admired the fact that you weren't trying to create a problem. You weren't trying to make a stir. You simply wanted to be able to express your faith, and it was originally just you. And the students wanted to join you. They did. And that got everybody all upset and in a wad. But ultimately, God used that whole scenario to get you to the Supreme Court, where you won an incredible landmark victory for religious freedom. I mean, I don't think you ever saw it going there, did you?
No, absolutely not. In fact, the first time we did the show together, I'm blaming you and God for all this.
I get blamed for a lot of stuff, Joe.
He was the one who told me to write the book, and so I think they're cohorts or something. They got something going on, but who knew it would ever come to this? This is insanely cool and weird.
You know, but the film's called Average Joe. You may think of yourself as average, but what God did was take a guy that was maybe average in one sense, but above and beyond in terms of the raw courage that it took to stand up and not fold when so much pressure was on you, Joe. I just hope people understand that 99% of the population would have at some point just said, you know, that's enough. I don't want any more of this. And Eric, you have to feel that part of the film is the portrayal of that sense of resilience.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, his story inspired me. And, you know, right now, there seems to be a lot of division. And what's so great about this story is it's a story of hope.
Yeah.
It's a story of redemption. And it's for all Americans to go see this film. And they will be inspired by this man's story and his courage to just persevere. You know, and what I loved about what he did is he brought people together. He was a uniter in this. He wasn't trying to divide people. And he poured into those kids on that football team. He's not even really a football guy, but he said, I know that I can bring something valuable to this team. And what he did is he united a community, and he ended up uniting a nation and fighting for this country.
That was 8 years ago. Some of those kids that came out at the 50-yard line and prayed with you now are already out of college. Do you have any contact with some of them? What has happened to some of those kids that saw your courage? Did it inspire some of them?
Oh, absolutely. I'm still in contact with all of my teams.
Wow.
I just got the privilege of going up and being in one of the weddings for one of my quarterbacks just a few months ago. And just to see these guys 10 years later, and we get together, one kid named his kid after me, which was really weird.
Wow. Average Joe.
But it's a girl. It's a girl.
Oh, it's a girl. Oh, yeah.
It was a good name for her.
Hey, if she's a Southerner, she can be Billy Joe, Bobby Joe, Betty Joe. It's perfectly fine. It's the way it's supposed to be. But, you know, I think you have to look back, and I know there's been a lot of hard times through all of this for you and your wife. Do you ever have a moment that you regret what you did or feel like that you should have just sucked it up and said, okay, I'll just go pray inside by myself?
Looking back, no, I'm glad I stayed true and held the resilience against all the pressure that we had. There was many times I was weak in the flesh, and I wanted to give up. It would have been so much easier just to go pray somewhere else. Yeah. But it was a principle of that, because I tell everybody, I was an American before I became a Christian. And those values mean something to me still. And the Constitution means something. So I was going to stand for that.
Well, God bless you for doing it. Eric, thank you for having the courage to take on the role. Your acting career is such an extraordinary success, and we're honored to have you. And Joe, it's absolutely a pleasure to have you. Everybody needs to go out and see this film, Average Joe. It opens nationwide on October the 11th through Fathom Events. You can see more clips and get tickets to a showing near you going to the film's website. How do you do that? If you go to huckabee.tv, we will connect you directly to that website so you can get the tickets. Do not miss this film. Now, there is nothing average about our erstwhile and very above average announcer, Keith Bilbrey, who is about to tell you that our show coming up ahead is anything but average. Keith?
Well, still to come, a rocking good performance from Gary Puckett in the Union Gap. And next, get ready to laugh with comedian Willie Brown and friends. Keep it here on Huckabee. Go to Huckabee.tv and get your very own Made in the USA Huckabee mugs, t-shirts, and more.
Well, we are right here in Music City, USA in the Nashville area, and of course that means music is a big part of this television show. And one of the reasons that it is such a successful part of this TV show is we just happen to have the very best musical geniuses in Nashville on our show, Trey Corley and the Music City Connection. Would you thank them for being here? Willie Brown is making his second appearance on the show. He's performed with comedians like Steve Harvey, Cedric the Entertainer, and Jamie Foxx. He's appeared in his own dry bar comedy special titled I'm Beside Myself. He's also been in the movies The Mecca of Comedy, All About You, and Changed for a Dollar. From Atlanta, Georgia, would you give it up for the comedy of Willie Brown?
All right. We got a great audience tonight. Hey, everybody, my name is Willie Brown. I am a professional ventriloquist. That is Latin for gynecologist. I'm just playing. I want to make sure you guys are still with me here, all right? Anyway, I got my partner here. I brought him all the way from Atlanta, Georgia. I know you're going to love him. Please put your hands together and start clapping. Give it up for Woody! Yeah. All right. There we go.
My goodness.
I got you. Don't worry about it.
Don't drop me.
All right.
We don't have any insurance. I was in the suitcase so long, I thought I was T. Diddy on house arrest. Don't look now that I think there's Homeland Security sitting over there.
Will you stop that? Just sit up here.
What are you doing?
I'm trying to get you situated.
I ain't that kind of guy. I'm already situated.
Look, I'm straight.
Yeah, but your hand is crooked.
We got a beautiful audience out there.
I seen a couple of funny-looking people out there. Mm-hmm. They know who they are.
That's not nice.
Huh?
No, tell them you're sorry.
And you're sorry, too.
Woody, no, don't do that.
What?
No, tell them you're sorry for calling them funny looking.
I'm sorry that you're funny looking.
You're going to get us in trouble.
What?
You're going to make them come up on stage?
Yeah.
They're going to mess with the both of us? I'm going to get back in that suitcase. What about me?
Every dummy for itself.
If I didn't speak for you, we wouldn't have an act.
You're speaking for me now, we still don't have the act.
Man, I'm so glad you came out.
I'm glad to be here. I tell you now, I was in the suitcase. I was waiting to exhale. You know I got asthma.
It's okay.
All right.
You know, I'm glad that we're here today in Nashville, Tennessee. You know, my mother is from Nashville.
Really?
Yeah, my father is from North Carolina. I was born up in New Haven, Connecticut.
Yeah, we're Northern Negroes.
We moved out to Los Angeles
to join the Jehovah's Witness Protection Program.
I loved L.A.
Speak for yourself.
L.A. had two of everything.
What's that?
2 basketball teams.
Yeah.
2 airports.
Yeah, and too many people on the street asking for money. Everywhere you go, they had the hand out. Hand looked like cups. I seen a homeless man with keys one day. Where was he going?
Oh, come on.
I seen a man had a sign that said, I need 25 cents.
What'd you do?
I pulled out my sign. I need 50 cents. Two can play this game. You're not gonna take advantage of me. Then they try to catch you on the way home from church on Sunday.
Right.
You know, like the Holy Spirit don't know. You got some extra change? I say, I don't know. Then they look in the pocket and check in the pocket. Look at here. Do you see some extra change? I got some personal change. Ain't got no extra change. Extra change is gone. Extra change came from the extra change pocket. This here is personal change. You can't have this. You asked for extra change.
Man, so what you been up to?
Man, I've just been, watching a favorite TV show.
What's that?
Joe Osteen.
Joe Osteen?
Yeah, man. Some people, they don't like Joe. They say Joe is not scriptural. I love Joe, because Joe make you feel good no matter what is going on in your life. You could be losing your arm. You don't need that arm. You still got another arm and two legs. What you worried about that arm for? You can still lay holy hands with that one arm. You can still do the right hand of fellowship with that one arm. If you lose your right arm, you're gonna have to give the left hand of fellowship. I like to go to church with my white friends.
You do?
Yeah, white folks don't stay in church that long. They got stuff to do. 20, 30 minutes, stay out of there. Black folk, we stay in church for 2 or 3 days at a time, praying for stuff we already prayed for. When white people get saved, they appreciate God. They say, God, we love you. Thank you, God. You're wonderful. Black people get saved, we're going to tell you, look, you better be glad I'm saved, because I'll bust your head to the white meat. I tell you,
my name is Willie Brown.
I'm Kevin Hart. Thank you so much.
Hey, Willie. Man, it's great having you here. Woody, great to have you here
Thank
too,
you,
brother.
Sir.
Hey, to see more of Willie Brown and Woody and their other friends, and to book them to entertain at your church, your comedy club, college, or corporation, if you visit huckabee.tv, we'll get you connected with Willie Brown. Right now, notice that my lips never move as Keith tells you what's coming up next.
Up next, a conversation with music legend Gary Puckett, plus a performance of one of the biggest hits that's guaranteed to take you back. That's next on Huckabee. Join Huckabee next week for syndicated columnist Ron Hart and get your dancing shoes on for the music from the Hughes Corporation.
Well, my next guest's unmistakable voice made Gary Puckett and the Union Gap one of the biggest groups of the 60s, with hits like Young Girl, Over You, This Girl Is a Woman Now, and Home. In 1968, they had 6 consecutive gold records. They outsold every other act in the world, including the Beatles. Get that. And he is still packing houses today. Would you give a great big welcome to Gary Puckett? Gary, welcome. Good to have you.
Thank you, Mike.
Keith Bilbrey and I both grew up as teenage disc jockeys. We played your records. We owe you a lot, because if it weren't for guys like you making phenomenal music, I'm not sure what we would have done. We wouldn't have played Lawrence Welk music, that's pretty sure.
There was a lot of great music back then, you know, so you were able to play a lot of great music.
A lot of great music, and a lot of it came from Gary Puckett and the Union Gap.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
You guys just kept putting out hits, and it was unique. The sound, as soon as I hear a Gary Puckett song, I mean, I know who it is. You have an unmistakable voice. Do people still just swoon over the fact that you're still out there doing concerts?
Well, you know, the fans love the music, and they come to see us, and we try to do the best we can to play that music and to have a good time with them.
Where do the Union soldier outfits come from?
Well, I had been trying to figure out how we could get through that barrier of being able to find a record company, being able to make a record, being able to get a champion of the cause, you know, because I didn't want to spend the rest of my life in nightclubs, in the smoke and the alcohol atmosphere, you know. So I had found a little agent up in Los Angeles. He came down to see us, thought we were a decent band, said, I'll get you some work. Sent us to Van Nuys first up in the LA area. Then we went to Seattle. And all this time I'm thinking, what is it we can do? We need to have a look, an identification, you know. And one day, because I had for many years had an interest in the Civil War history of the US, and I went, that just seems like a really great idea. We can be the same and yet different. We can have ranks and, you know, different hats and stuff like that, but we will be uniform, you know. And I thought Union soldier because I grew up in the North, you know, that was, and I liked blue, you know. so I told the fellas what we were gonna do, and they said, that's the dumbest thing we ever heard.
Hey, I'm glad they listened to you eventually, because it worked out pretty doggone well.
It did.
Gary, I got to tell you, the greatest hits album of Gary Puckett and the Union Gap, one of the, must-have albums for every baby boomer out there, and even for people who are 20 years old. If you don't have the greatest hits of Gary Puckett and the Union Gap, you got to get it, because it was one of the biggest selling albums CBS Records ever had. There's a reason for that, and you'll find out when you own it.
Well, just visit huckabee.tv for a link to their music, tour dates, social media pages, and autographed albums, including the new album, Love Songs. You can also see an exclusive online performance of Home.